competencies. So here, when we talk about competencies, we know that certain persons are able to deal with life situations in a better manner than others. This is because they have the ability to deal with certain situations. This competencies is supposed to be a measurable pattern of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behavior, and other characteristics that help an individual person perform his role or his responsibilities very successfully. So certain individuals are successful in certain aspects and in certain situations more than others. This may be because there are various reasons for such competencies. We know that certain persons are more competent than other persons. That is, they are able to thrive well, do well in a situation when compared to others. This competence may be because of various reasons, and a skill that a person exhibits in a particular field or in a particular sector may be because of their knowledge, understanding, skills, and also their previous experience with the setting. So we know that certain people are more capable and certain people are not capable with dealing certain situations. That is, some people are more skillful while some are not. Now, it is not an inborn thing. We know that all the skills are cultivated or people get trained in particular skills. So here, when we say a person is capable or effective, that means he is able to carry out certain things to the best of the ability in a particular situation. When suppose a person does not do well in a situation, what would be the consequences? He will feel demotivated and consequently his psychological growth is affected and also it has a bearing on his well-being. That is, he does not feel motivated enough to continue with the activity or sometimes even with living. On the other hand, if he is able to do well on a situation or if he is able to do a skill perfectly well, and then that gives him satisfaction and this helps with the overall psychological growth and well-being. So we know that competencies are very important actually for a person to do well in life and also for their psychological well-being. We know that they are the prerequisites for psychological growth and psychological health. We know that personality is a combination of several traits and patterns that influence behavior and our thoughts and motivations and emotions. We know that personality is what drives people to think and feel and behave in certain ways. We know every person has his own individual unique personality. Now, we know that the personality is a combination of biological factors, socio-cultural factors, and psychological factors. That means a personality of a person is dependent on what sort of genetical heredity he is obtained and from what socio-cultural background he hails and what are the emotional factors or psychological factors or what is his mental makeup. All these factors together bring out the personality. Now, a well-balanced personality is very important for developing psychological competencies. It is vice versa, you can say. Psychological competencies can be obtained by training, and this helps the psychological growth. And a person's personality also has an effect on the competencies he may develop in his life. We all know that life skills are very important. Nowadays, there is more emphasis on life skills because a person is supposed to have certain skills to deal with life. We know we have lots of problems in everyday, day-to-day life, and when people require to participate in life in a full way. This means we should have the abilities to adapt and also behave in a positive manner when we have some troubles and not shy away from them. This means that we should have the ability to deal effectively with the demands and the challenges that are posed by society or the difficulties one may face in one's life. Now, there are several life skills that one should develop. That is like critical thinking, able to judge properly, analyze things, have problem solving skills, have affection or empathy towards others, having self-awareness on their own abilities, having the skills to deal with other persons, etc. So here in this textbook or this subject, we are going to try to deal with all these, that is the competencies aspect, the life skills aspect, and the personality aspect, because the personality as well as the life skills as well as the competencies, they're all interrelated, and also each has a bearing on other. Now, what does a competency mean? Competencies means doing well in a situation, and it means having required knowledge and skills to solve problems. For example, we have several problems in our day-to-day life. They may be ranging from simple to complex. And the ability to deal with the situations, ability to get on, and also perform well, arrive at solutions, and exhibit a particular ability in dealing with these complex areas, and trying to have a positive attitude and show a particular skill in a particular situation, and that will enable to actually enhance or better the situation as well as the psychological being of the role model person here, the person who is being involved in that. The competences are actually a positive attribute. We think sometimes having enough knowledge gives us the scope to be competent. But we know that sometimes feedback and support from other persons or other experts in the field is also required. That is, we require constant support of our activities from the immediate environment. The positive and informative feedback we get from our elders or maybe our teachers, it increases our engagement or interest, and it helps us to gradually develop enough competencies in the field. Whereas the demeaning criticism or negative feedback without proper idea of what has gone wrong will sometimes try to make the persons feel incompetent. This is known as perceived incompetence. The other person is perceived as incompetent, whereas a correct positive feedback may make you feel that you are competent enough. So besides this, the competency also has to be practiced in various types of settings. For example, if you are at home, you do something it is appreciated, you try to do the same thing in a community, it is also appreciated there, then you may feel that such activity has a commendation and therefore it is a commendable act, and therefore it would make you try to do the act again, and it makes you feel happy. And this gives the psychological well-being. So we can say by definition, competency is a state or quality of being or properly having a well-qualified competence means having motivation and action to achieve a particular level of qualification or capability. Now, having a particular level of qualification means sometimes it is predetermined. For example, when you enter into a classroom, the teachers or the syllabus or the pre-required ideas, they tell you actually, the guidelines tell you to what level you are supposed to achieve the competency. That is, you are asked to do certain tasks, you are asked to do well in a particular task and also do effectively and in an appropriate and effective way. And that shows the competence you have achieved in a particular subject or field. Now, there are various definitions of competence. We know that the more the definitions, the better the knowledge, because most of the definitions try to reach the center of the meaning of the concept. Now, for example, here it says that competence means having knowledge, skills, and abilities which help you to deal with the demands of the situation. That is, sometimes there may occur certain situations in the society or at work or in the classroom that requires your attention, and all your knowledge, skills, and abilities should try to be in accordance with such demands of the situation, and you should be able to come over the situation. Now, in 2001, there is another definition, a standard definition saying that a group of knowledge, personal attitudes, and skills and related experiences that make a person successful is competence. Obviously, if a person is able to do well in a situation, that means he has tried to overcome a particular situation, or he has overcome the problem or some trial, and therefore he is able to do or fare well. There is another definition by Rankin who says that collection of behaviors and skills that people are expected to show in their work. This is the situation-driven sort of thing where the people are expected to do certain things, especially in organizations or settings, and they are able to do it well, and therefore they receive appreciation. So in one's work, one is supposed to exhibit certain skill, and this skill is known as competence. Also, we have got the United Nations International Development Organization trying to say that competence is knowledge, skills, and specifications which can cause the person to act better, not considering his special proficiency in the job. So some people may have the proficiency in the job, that is that they may be able to do well, but competence goes beyond that in the sense that they are able to apply this knowledge well beyond the situation. That is, they are able to apply whatever knowledge they routinely apply to, or extend that knowledge to other situations, and are able to solve the problems. So generally, there is a particular way of dealing with all these things, that is generally knowledge, skills, and abilities which help a person to do well in a situation, be successful, and also make the situation better in the sense that they offer certain solutions, and these competencies are exhibited not at one point of time, but they are applicable. The competencies are of such that they are applicable at different points of time by the same person. Now, we know that there are actually, it's a particular type of model which says that competence is not a one-day activity. It takes for a period of time. Competences are not obtained obviously in a day, and it is a series of knowledge, abilities, and skills and behaviors which lead to the effective performance of the individual. Therefore, it is measurable, and one can actually try to say how much competence one has achieved. Of course, it's a bit difficult. Many sort of experiments are there which says it is not easy to actually measure competence or try to see how competence is being achieved through different periods. But we know that it is measurable and it can be obtained through training. It also can be broken down into several small aspects, and each skill can be trained upon. And here, that is how the individuals achieve their effective performance. Now, we know that in organizations, all the activities are broken down into several small tasks so that they can reach the target level of proficiency. Now, different situations, how we act, for example, in an emergency, how a person acts. Now, all these aspects are covered, and we know that if a person has succeeded in trying to act successfully in a particular situation, he'll try to expand it to the other situation, or try to what we call see that the same situation in other situations too, he can follow the similar type of behavior or similar type of pattern of behavior because he has succeeded previously, and that enables him to think that similar sort of behavior or similar sort of application oriented behavior can also help him in other situations. So to be competent, a person has to understand or interpret the situation in which he is, and also understand the various types of actions, we call it as a repertoire of actions that are possible in that particular situation, and analyze which is the best course of action and use the judgment to apply it into the next step or next course of action. And if it is successful, it is called successful. So regardless of whatever training, competency also comes through experience. That is, you have to face such certain situations, and that gives you an idea of how to deal with the problems in different situations. And also the capacity for learning and also adapting. Sometimes some people undergo various situations, but they do not learn from the situations. Then they are not able to make much of experience, and therefore they're not able to apply to the other situations. Now we know that there are certain researches and competencies. Competencies is hard to learn. One requires to spend time on it. One can better their competence through training, and also competence can be broken down into several bits and it can be learned. Now, what is the need for competence? We know that in organizations or in, say, institutions, we know that the competence is well appreciated. A person who is not competent, he is not much appreciated, doesn't get much recognition, and this is because competence is always valued. Job well done. A job well done is appreciated. So we know that we make changes in the environment, social or political or educational environment, and meaningful effects are possible only when persons are competent enough. If we doesn't help much for human sustenance. We have this innate property to develop all our skills and abilities. We all have that feeling that we should exist in our knowledge, skills, and abilities, and experience effectiveness in our action, and also got this feeling that we should be appreciated for our actions. And this gives scope for the psychological well-being of people. And one has the satisfaction of doing certain things to the best of one's ability, is the need for a good level of competence in the field. So what I mean to say here is people should try to achieve competence in whatever field they are doing, because competences do take time, competences require motivation, competences are well appreciated, and also competences leave a mark on the society, and they help to the sustenance of the human life. Now, there are 4 stages of competence. We know that this is known as the conscious competence learning model. Can competences be learned? That is the question here. Yes, they can be. And now the psychological states involved in the process of learning a skill or learning competencies can be broken down into 4 steps. That is, this was actually thought about and brought in by Martin M. Broadwell. He is a management person. This Broadwell said, he described the model as the 4 levels of teaching. This can be applied to any sort of teaching. This model was also applied by Gordon Training International. Now, this was called as the 4 stages of learning any skill. That is, stages to go through. Any skill is not learned in a day. We know that. First, it should be identified. Therefore, we know that sometimes we are incompetent, or we do not know a skill, and we are not conscious that we lack in the skill. That is known as unconscious incompetence. This is the first stage. Here, the individual is not aware of what he is lacking or how he has to make up for his lack of skill. That is, if one does not know what one lacks, how do you think one can develop? Therefore, one has to be consciously aware. So at the initial stage, one is not conscious of his level of incompetence. This is known as unconscious incompetence level, but maybe due to environmental or due to certain situations, this person is able to perceive that there is something lacking in him. So at some stage, he comes to know that he lacks a particular skill and that is required of him to excel in life. Then the next stage comes of conscious incompetence. Now that the person is aware that he is incompetent, he is conscious of the fact, he recognizes that he is incompetent, and he learns, he knows the need that he has to develop certain skills or the competencies so that he'll be able to excel. This is conscious incompetence. Now he starts making attempts to learn this particular skill or competencies. Now we have got the conscious competences because of the various exercises he may undertake, or various the training programs he may undertake, or various activities where he works hard to develop a particular competency. The person is able to concentrate, learn in small steps, He is consciously involved in the activity, and therefore he learns a particular new skill. And when he learns a new skill, he also tries to apply or exercise it in the different situations that he is placed in. Later, the fourth stage is he starts to use this in different situations. And this is known as conscious competence. That is the third stage. Conscious competence is now he is able to apply whatever he has learned in different aspects or situations. And here, this is a trial and error type of situation where he tries to use whatever skill he has learned in different situations. Sometimes he's able to excel, sometimes he does not. But the feedback, that is to positive feedback and critical feedback, will make him know his mistakes and correct them. And therefore, he is able to gain a better level of competence. This is known as conscious competence level. The fourth stage is unconscious competence. That is, the person has become so good at his job or at the skill or at the competence that he is able to practice it blindfolded. That is able to practice it easily. It becomes his second nature, and therefore he is able to use it in all situations and also be able to apply to new situations or new problems whenever they occur in his life. So again, I would say Martin M. Broadwell's factors, that is a conscious competence learning model, talks about 4 stages, that is unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, and also conscious competence, where the person is able to make some effort and learn things and practice, and unconscious competence, where it becomes a part of his nature. He is able to excel in the skill and also apply to various new situations. Now, we have markers of psychological competences. What do markers mean? Markers are certain characteristic features, or what we call, they predetermine the characters, they predetermine a particular attribute. For example, we know we are talking about the psychological competences, but there are certain features or characters which are exhibited by persons which tell us about what sort of attribute or how much attribute one person has got. That is, we know that the competencies are predetermined or clearly articulated in any domain of professional activity. For example, a person is a tailor. He is supposed to stitch neatly and also what we call with all the correct measurements, and also it should be beautiful or aesthetic to look enough, and it should also be suitable for persons whoever are there. It should be useful for all purposes, and also it should be according to the size of any other person who may come there. Similarly, we have several other sort of skills that one may actually see in life, and all these skills require a certain level of professional activity. Now, in these professional activities, the competencies are predetermined. They are appreciated. We have certain guidelines on how they should actually work out. Now, acquiring these competencies is one aspect. And also, we also should have the proficiency in that field is one aspect, but there are certain other things which we call it as competence. The word competence means not only professional competency, but beyond that, we talk about our ability to change according to the situation, or exhibiting what we call proper knowledge or proper judgmental, when we are trying to assess a situation, having the judgmental abilities, and also having ability to take proper actions according to analyzing or evaluating how they work out, how the results work out, etc. So beyond the professional ability, we are talking about our judgmental abilities, our ability to adapt to certain situations, and also our ability to act wisely in new situations and act in complex and unique situations, use our judgments and take proper decisions. Now, for example, if a pilot is there, he has proficiency, but when he is placed in a difficult situation, or when he has to go over a difficult terrain, or what he has no substantial grounds, or he has no information, he has to make quick decisions, and that is dependent on his earlier knowledge, And of course, but at the same time, it also depends on making a quick judgment of all the aspects that are involved, the timing and what decision he has to take, and evaluating the reasons for his decision and take quick action. So this makes him a competent pilot. So it goes beyond the proficiency in a particular field. Proficiency comes from knowledge. But more than that, the ability to judge, rationally think, and critically evaluate these make a competence. Now, we know sometimes in our life situations, we are placed in conflicting situations where we have different values. We are in the midst of different values. Either this is good or that is good, or ethical stands we have to take. What sort of judgment will be ideal in a particular situation? How should one behave? And this actually tries to give us new knowledge. But when one tries to make a judgment, or when one tries to improve performance, we know that we have to combine knowledge, our skills, and our abilities. All these have to be combined to make a judgment. We know that all of these to have to be combined and also be applied. Application is also very important for successful learning. Not only learning, but for successful living and also for successful working in any organization, it is important that we have these competencies. Why competencies and life skills have become important these days? Because we find that most of the persons, because of the changing sort of social climate in which we are working, the technology that is impinging on us, we find we are placed in different or diverse sort of life situations which people are unable to come out, and therefore it is affecting their psychological well-being. So it is necessary that one should gain the proficiency, one should also have the competency, but beyond that one should have the skills to how to deal with them, and these are the life skills. Now, coming back to the markers of the psychological competencies, we know that in all walks of life, we talk about the markers, these markers. We will start with the first one, that is critical thinking. Critical thinking comes because we try to think. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is to make a rational judgment, trying to think rationally, critically applying whatever knowledge we have learned to different situations. So here we are using our reasoning. We are using this reasoning to actually conceptualize something and evaluating something. For example, we have different ideas or different sources of knowledge. We try to understand what is more ethical or what is more valuable or what is more applicable. When we have placed with a different number of ideas, then we have either the way of comparing them or trying to make the best of them by synthesizing them. So critical thinking simply we can say is using our reasoning abilities. How does one improve thinking? We improve our thinking by thinking. That is, we reflect on our thinking. Suppose we are given a book to read. After reading the book, we come to a conclusion, isn't it? Now we try to think on the book or the thoughts that are given in the book, and we try to reflectively think on what has been told to us, and we try to assess what is good or bad in the book. Similarly, when somebody listens to a speaker, or when somebody tries to listen to a new idea, or when somebody has seen a new advertisement, they try to understand what are the assumptions behind those thoughts, or what are the beliefs or that are belying those thoughts, or why some people take certain actions, what are the reasons behind it. When we try to reason out, this is known as reasoning. And we know that when we are trying to be critically thinking, we are very honest and we are very fair, because if there is no honesty, no fairness, how do we think critically? So critically thinking means that we have negated or not appreciated an idea because we did not like. When we say we do not like a particular thing, we should be able to reason out. When the Edison made so many inventions because of his perseverance. So people, he has to use many types of materials before he finally come to the electric bulb. So he has tried with several materials. Similarly, in life too, when people try to persevere and stick to an idea, stick to how to solve a problem, this requires creativity and innovation. Innovation does not come in a day, and creativity is not born in a day. Creativity means thinking at new ideas based on the older ideas. So it means looking at all the various possible solutions in terms of the what we have, what information we have. The other competency that can be developed, or the other marker for competency, is having communication. See, one should be able to clearly communicate one's ideas and clarify the purpose of a message. We may have to think when we communicate what are the perspectives, thoughts, and also what are the emotions and experiences of other persons are. Because when we try to communicate, we do not communicate in vacuum. We are trying to communicate with people. That means they have their own experiences, their own perspectives, their own emotions, and we have to understand, take into account all these when we are trying to communicate with them. So another hallmark or another marker of competency is having a good communication skill. We should be able to decode and interpret the ideas of others by listening. So they say that listening is one more skill that is required while you communicate, because when one does not listen, one does not know how to respond. So expressing the ideas very coherently and also trying to give a proper linear form to your thoughts while you express something, using appropriate language that actually communicates your thoughts, and also using certain conventions or protocols or the ways how things are going on. For example, if you attend a meeting, what are the protocols that are seen? Who speaks first, who speaks last? These are the protocols. So communication also means certain predetermined ways of trying to speak at a particular situation. So situational aspects also should be considered in communication. And also we should try to have respect and responsibility when we are communicating with others. Responsibility in the sense, whatever we say should have a bearing and should be authentic enough. And also respect in the sense, one should respect others' feelings as well as their knowledge. So when we talk about communication, we are talking about the clarity of purpose, being considerate for others' feelings and thoughts, and trying to understand, interpret from others' person's point of view, and also having an idea of how they are acting, and expressing one's ideas in appropriate language, and also demonstrating respect and responsibility towards others. There's one more aspect or one more marker of competency nowadays that's known as collaboration. It's not enough if one person is sufficiently knowledgeable enough to deal with things. He is also supposed to collaborate with ideas and with persons. And this means one should share responsibilities and support others. They should also demonstrate sensitivity to others' feelings. We call this as empathy. For example, we should try to think how other persons feel. We should try to step into their what we call shoes and understand how they feel about a particular aspect. This is because we have nowadays diverse cultures, diverse audiences, diverse contexts, and therefore one should take into account their feelings and their ways of interest and their motivations too when we try to work with them. So only based on this, one can get trust from others. We get what we extend. If we extend reciprocity and trust, we get reciprocity and trust. Also, one should value flexibility. One should value compromise. One should sometimes compromise with others so that they are able to gain the best of the situation. And also understand the contribution of others in a positive light and articulate that so that they too feel recognized. So what I hear is the collaboration techniques are such that one should be able to share, one should be able to demonstrate empathy or sensitivity to others, one should exhibit reciprocity and trust, and also one should have the feelings of flexibility and also value the relationship with others. There are one or two other markers which you'd like to enlighten up now upon. One of the other markers of competencies is cultural and global citizenship. We know that now the world is fully made up of diverse people, and it is the dignity and the well-being of the individuals that is required all over the world. Now, diverse perspectives have become very important because we are working in a multi-level sort of communities where there are many sort of diverse people working in different organizations or cultural areas, and therefore we have to analyze various ways in which decisions could be made in different cultural, environmental, or economic systems. This means we should have an idea of what is citizenship, what citizenship means in different countries, and how decisions or actions are taken in different countries, and what are the underlying beliefs, and how all people are equal. And diversity is in essence an important part that is to be respected, and we should know that everybody can make a difference and everyone has different capacities, and every nation or every individual from every nation can contribute to the well-being of the human being. So therefore, we are talking more about cultural and global citizenship, not because it is from the perspective of the different companies acting in different countries. It's also from the enhanced enlightening on the part of the people, that people are traveling and also talking to each other. There's an international framework where human rights are respected, and therefore it is known, it is felt nowadays that diversity should be more what we call respected, it should be accepted, and also should be taken into account when we are working. So having an idea of how to have a cultural diversity and appreciate it, and how to go for a global citizenship so that you're accepted by other people's other countries. Having cultural identity is different, but having also respect for other diverse cultures is a different aspect, and this competence should also be developed by us. Also, we should try to develop our personal growth and well-being, because ultimately, when we draw our strength from our own interests, skills, and talents. So we are reflective and resourceful and optimistic, and this is personal excellence. What actually makes us happy, we should spend time on that. We should identify our own interests, values, and skills, and life and career goals. We should explore, try to select and adapt strategies, make choices and take actions that make us happy, make us feel secure, make us feel well-being, give us a sense of well-being. And also we should have certain healthy relationships among people, because only healthy relationships help us to grow and also be happy. And we should demonstrate flexibility, optimism, or resilience, because after all, we have a human life, one human life, and we should try to make the best of it, and we should try to develop such sort of optimism, a positivity, and also our ways to change or be flexible in our opinions. And therefore, all these aspects become the markers of competence. So psychological competencies means that there are certain markers or characteristic features which make us say this person is competent. I'd like to repeat again. These are critical thinking, and also trying to go for time management, having the ability to solve problems based on the knowledge we have, being creative and innovative, having good communication skills, and also trying to collaborate with many others, and also having the cultural and global citizenship. That is, understanding that cultural and global citizenship is required, and also trying to do something for our own personal growth and well-being. Now, there may be certain other markers which actually may connote this sort of competencies. But then when we make decisions, we use all of these markers and we judge, we try to assess the different possibilities in a situation, we come to a decision of what is good, what is not bad, and we have the ability to evaluate, and then we also should have the ability to modify one's decisions. We may take a decision based on certain things, but when one is forced to when one makes a wrong judgment, he should have the ability to also correct it and go on another path, because life sometimes means modifications and compromises. So all this requires practice. These actions must be what we call, this should be executed in relationship to certain principles, standards, guidelines. People say when you are a competent person, it means they have had certain guidelines in their mind, some certain standards and certain values. They may be in a profession or even for public verification, but that means certain levels of excellence should be reached. So we may have certain competencies, we may not have certain competencies, we may be having only certain levels of competencies in certain field, but then it is developmental. It is different from person to person, depends on different stages of the human being, at what stage of growth he is, and also in professional functioning also it varies whether you're in the early stage of a profession or at late stage of profession. So it is context dependent on various aspects, and each competency means that it is an interaction between the environment and the human being, and these competencies are composed of knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and are required for professional practice. They come out with a performance. You can see them, observe them, they can be evaluated upon, and also they can be enhanced through training and development. I would come to stop here. Tomorrow we'll try to deal with what we call the personality aspects and life skills aspects, which are the continuing lessons in our unit. Thank you very much.
In the outgoing SMS unlimited pack மட்டுமே கிடைக்கும். உங்களுக்கு unlimited ஆஃபரை அறிய